In today's show, Apple's top secret deal with China and what it means. Could low-end Macs drop Thunderbolt for lower prices? Solid-state keyboards for MacBooks, 8K iMac Pros, MagSafe iPads, and Apple Pay for iMac Pros, all brought to you by privateinternetaccess.com/iCaveDave for 4 free months of service with your subscription. More on that later. So straight into our top story, how Tim Cook's Apple made a secret deal with the Chinese government worth $275 billion over 5 years. Are they now just government shills? Depends if you ask the comment section, where you can leave your best conspiracy theories for me to mock later. Turns out it's nothing quite as exciting, but that as Apple considers China a major market, no duh, Apple made deals with the country to help with developing skills in their workforce, improving China's technology profile and economy with various other deals. Much of this seems to have been negotiated directly by Tim Cook, while Apple was facing a number of new regulatory hurdles in China back around 2016 ahead of the iPhone X launch. We're only hearing about this now because of the opaque way that both China and Apple operate, and it wasn't specifically designed to be kept a secret, but it was also not the kind of thing that Apple would just do a press release on. It did, however, serve to protect things like Apple Pay and the App Store in China, of course, helping Apple's revenue in that country and probably beyond. Apple has, of course, invested billions of dollars over the years in terms of manufacturing and distribution infrastructure, which is also how it's been able to deliver the incredible numbers of devices that Apple needs every year for iPhone launches specifically, but also across its other product categories. While there might still be short initial delays in some iPhone models at launch, these are typically in the 1 to 2 week range, and not into the months of shortages that were seen back in the iPhone 4 and 4S days, when the volumes in general were far smaller too. This is a testament to Tim Cook's leadership and how impressive his operational and logistic planning has been over the years. There's a very good reason why Apple has been least affected by the global chip shortages, and that is how far out Apple books their manufacturing capacity with places like TSMC. On that subject, while we recently heard that Apple had cut iPhone production by around 10 million units due to a lack of components from Texas Instruments and Broadcom, it seems these shortages have now been resolved, with Apple increasing their iPhone orders by 30% for the start of 2022. This could, however, be an indication of production beginning for the refreshed iPhone SE model, expected to get 5G connectivity, an A15 chip inside, and potentially MagSafe charging support. More on MagSafe a little bit later too. But for now, let's get into your iCave answers, with John asking, iCave answers, would the MacBook Air or models be cheaper if no Thunderbolt was included and it was just USB-C ports? I have an M1 Air and I've literally never used the Thunderbolt capacity, and I use a lot of USB-C connections and accessories, but I'm not sure about other MacBook Air owners. So that's a really good point. Thunderbolt is quite a professional port. However, the issue with that is that you couldn't really remove it from MacBook Airs and not take it out of the base model Mac Mini and MacBook Pro base levels as well, so the M2 for example. And the reason for that is the Thunderbolt controllers are built into the M1 itself, I believe, and into the M2 in future. So those controllers are being paid for anyway, the licensing is being paid for anyway, so just saying that these are going to be USB-C ports and not Thunderbolt ports and limiting the speed wouldn't actually reduce the production capacity. Now, could they make a separate M-series chip that didn't have those controllers on it to save a few dollars? Probably, but the increased cost in having another chip die setup compared to just using the same die across the board doesn't really make economical sense. For example, the iPad Pro probably doesn't need to have Thunderbolt speeds on board. It's nice that it does, but it would do just fine with USB-C. However, because it's built into the M1 chip already, they might as well use it. So hopefully that makes sense. It does give you the option of plugging in hubs and things like that, being able to run higher resolution monitors, for example, but I don't think it would save any money to remove it from the MacBook Airs. Just a Passerby asks, I don't know if I dreamed this, so maybe you can help. I seem to remember a leaked Apple patent for a MacBook with a typical screen, but the base part where the keyboard and trackpad would normally be was more like an iPad, and the surface could be reprogrammed with an infinite number of alternate keyboards, layouts, languages, and characters, or could be used like a Wacom drawing tablet. Ring any bells? Or is it just the liquor talking? I also predict in addition to the 27-inch iMac, we will have a 32 and 36-inch device named the Mac Pro AIO, all in one. So first on that solid state keyboard thing, yeah, there have been patents. The patents are out there for basically a glass surface that could show a keyboard when it needed to, could be a complete touch screen surface, could probably work with the Apple Pencil, and would also be able to wirelessly charge accessories through it using MagSafe. I do think that this is something that could well appear down the line. It makes sense as an extension of the fact that when the iPhone was introduced, Steve Jobs' big talking point was that because we don't have a hardware keyboard, we can use that space for other stuff when we need to, and then we can put a keyboard there when we need it. It makes sense as an idea. I think there's still going to be a lot of resistance to having a fully software keyboard on a device that you would type on a lot, but I also think that going forward, we're going to have a lot of people, a lot of kids today are probably learning to type on an iPad more than they are on a physical keyboard. I think in future it's going to be one of those things that the old guard are like, no, I need a physical keyboard, and that's fine. You can always pair a Bluetooth keyboard with it, but a lot of younger people that have come up with glass touchscreens that have keyboards embedded in them will be more than happy to type on glass. I'm sure the haptics will be really good by then. I'm sure the inadvertent touch rejection will be better so that it's more accurate at typing. I don't think we're quite there yet, but I can see why it would be a future technology. On the Mac Pro all-in-one, I don't see that they would call it that. To be honest, with the Mac Pro, the whole point is that it's flexible and that you can pair it with whatever displays or keyboards or other peripherals that you need to. I don't see that they would do a Mac Pro with an embedded display, but there might well be an iMac Pro. I hate the name iMac Pro because it doesn't make sense, because I means consumer and Pro means pro, and when you smush them together, I think it was very much a one-off thing to be a stopgap with the iMac Pro that we had in the past. I'm sure people call the high-end ones an iMac Pro anyway, but it shouldn't be called that if we're going to be Apple purists. Cleveland Iron Man asks, iCave answers, you talked about a possible 34 to 36 inch iMac with a 6K resolution. Do you think that Apple could surprise everyone with an 8K display instead? So I think 8K displays are still a little bit out there. The amount of bandwidth that's required to do an 8K display, especially at probably the 120Hz ProMotion that Apple would want to put into a Pro display at this point, I think that's really going to be pushing it. I think 6K at 120Hz is still double the bandwidth that has to be pushed through to a Pro Display XDR right now, which is a ridiculous amount of bandwidth already. There's not a huge, I think it's like 13 gigabytes per second or something, horrendously high. So I do think the chances of it going up to an 8K are minimal, but not impossible. It could happen. It could happen. Tim Kinetics asks, iCave answers, lots of rumours flying around regarding the new iPad Pro having a glass back for MagSafe / wireless charging and reverse wireless charging. How do you think this might work with a lot of iPads staying in cases made of metal and magnets, as well as making room for the smart connector? Okay, this is a great point, and I know you sent me some extra context for this. This was about Drew talking about the practicality of having your iPad face down on a table to charge stuff off of it. Now, I don't think that this is designed to be during the day, this is what you use to charge your devices. But I think that people that are traveling, rather than necessarily carrying their iPhone with its own charger and their iPad Pro with a charger and their AirPods with a charger, for example, you could have two MagSafe charging spots on the back of an iPad Pro, where you can pop down your iPhone and your AirPods overnight while you sleep. You plug in your iPad Pro using the USB-C connector, the Thunderbolt connector, you charge that through that, and it passes the charge over to the other devices. I think that's probably more what it's thinking about, rather than, using your iPad Pro as a full-time charging mat. That would be an expensive charging mat. I could definitely see the next generation of smart keyboards, the Magic Keyboard and Trackpad case, for example, having just a MagSafe connection in the back of it rather than having the smart connector, which could use the ultra-wideband technology from AirTags to do the data connection, because you're going very short distances, and that would be just as good, I would say, as having the direct connection, especially in terms of a keyboard. We all use Bluetooth keyboards. I'm not sure why we definitely need to have a smart connector with a wired keyboard. That doesn't quite make sense to me. I'm not quite sure why Apple went down that route. I guess it's just the fact that you don't have to then charge the keyboard. It runs off the battery in the iPad. But hey, guess what? If you've got reverse wireless charging in your iPad, it can send the power to the keyboard that way. So I think that would be pretty safe. I know you're talking about the other iPads still having metal backs. Yes, they will do for now, until this technology kind of trickles down. I think that is what Apple's going to do. It fits in with the design language of everything else. Everyone was talking about the new iPhones having the design language of the iPad Pro. It's not. This is the design language that's kind of trickled down from the old iPhone 4s, and this is probably going to then trickle down to the iPad Pros with the glass back and the stainless steel rims, I would think. The reason that we can't have wireless charging, by the way, with metal backs is you can't really charge wirelessly through metal. That's why we have glass backs on the iPhones now. And Len Adams asks, iCave answers, do you think that we'll use Apple Pay, Unlock, and even Memoji on an iMac Pro? Yes, we already can. Memoji is already a thing that's on there. You can't do the live Memoji stuff right now because it doesn't have a true depth camera in the front, but I think that's going to be coming. Apple Pay obviously already works on all the Macs. That's absolutely fine. And Unlock with Face ID, I'm guessing, is what you were talking about. I think it's definitely coming to the Macs. There's a reason that the MacBook Pros have got that notch. And as much as people can say, oh no, they wouldn't put it there before they've got Face ID ready, just so that it's ready for Face ID, I think it would be a much bigger deal if people got a small notch now and then it got bigger to put Face ID in it later. I think that would be probably more of a jarring experience to people than having the notch there now for the camera. And maybe in the next generation they add the Face ID sensors too. I know that the depth is the issue with this at the moment, with the components being too thick to fit in the lid of the laptop, but these laptops have got a little bit thicker. I wonder if the technology just wasn't quite ready for this first launch. But when you're putting it into an iMac, you've got loads of room. And next, a word from our sponsor. Today's sponsor is Private Internet Access, the world's most transparent VPN provider, with over 30 million downloads. It's a simple-to-use VPN that works with your Mac, iPhone, iPad, and even those PC things and Android phones, routing all of your traffic through a secured tunnel to hide your IP address and keep what you're doing private. And let's be honest, if you're watching this video, you're probably using the devices you are because you value your privacy. Private Internet Access hides your network data from everyone, from your internet service provider or network administrator to government censors. And it's the most customizable on the market, letting you set custom rules for different websites and offering no bandwidth restrictions or speed throttling, so you can stream, upload, and download to your heart's content privately. And my favourite part is that it's 100% open source, so if you're one of those clever people who knows what you're actually looking at, it's easy to verify that everything is above board from the open GitHub repositories. No user data is stored, and PIA's no-log policy has been proven in court multiple times. So get your 3-year subscription with 4 extra months absolutely free for only $1.98 a month. That's 83% off only by visiting privateinternetaccess.com/iCaveDave, as this offer is exclusive for you guys and it's risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee and 24/7 customer support. So why wait? Okay guys, that's it for this show. Thanks to all the Patreons over here. We've got a whole bunch of product reviews coming out soon. We've got a charge tree swing coming. We've got a couple of different frames, which you might have spotted in the background of the videos, coming from Grid and Exiart. So those have already been filmed. It's just in the editing now. We've also got some stuff that's arrived from Ugreen. We've got the X6 earbuds and the Ugreen gallium nitride fast charger, which is a 100-watt charger and does a whole bunch of stuff at the same time. So there's plenty to look forward to. Stay tuned, make sure you've hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.